the universities are realizing now with a bump that people have been paying for the experience, not really for the education. And people aren't willing to pay that much money for the, for the education that's on offer.
And we are recording, gentlemen.
University 2. We're revisiting this one because we have more to say on the subject. James got passionate about the left kind of taking over the curriculum. Is that a fair way to say it, James?
Very passionate.
But I wanted to talk about what seems like a problem to me is what has been a problem, and I've heard it come up over the years, is that everyone thinking that they should go to university and that being a given. And now it seems, upon reflection, you hear a lot of people saying that maybe that, I don't know if I hear people saying it, but I think people maybe regret going to university and getting themselves into debt. And I remember hearing along the lines of it was like Tony Blair's government saying that we need to get more people to university and we're going to be a nation of intellectuals, I suppose, was his plan. I did try and look up some old articles for this, but I didn't try too hard because I didn't find anything. But do you think, is that just something that I'm experiencing in people regret going to university, or maybe they thought they should go to university and then looking back, if they were honest, they'd wish they hadn't? Or am I just trying to pat myself on the back here, you know what I mean?
No, I mean, I don't have any stats on this. All I can say is that a lot of people go for the experience, the life experience, I think, rather than the education. And I'm just speculating, but I suppose that many people realize that they could have got the same life experience, renting a flat, in their hometown and getting drunk 3 nights a week, if that's what life experience is. For me, it wasn't really a turn on, to be honest with you. Like, I had a key to my house since the age of 8. I came and went as I pleased, let myself in after school. So the carrot of independence when I was 18 really wasn't much of an excitement for me. So I was a little bit puzzled at all this debauchery, from people that have looked like they've been locked up for the previous 18 years. But yeah, I mean, look, like you say, then I think sometimes now it's seen as a logical next step, and you really need to think about it because it's not for everyone. What do you think, Sal?
There you go.
I mean, last time we made this distinction that we were talking about mostly American and UK universities, right? Because also last time I said I had a very different experience when I went to university, but it was already a long time ago. So I'm not sure if things have changed. From what I read up a bit more about all the debt in those universities, and it seems to be really ridiculous that if you have to pay back sometimes $100,000 or pounds or whatever it is and more.
That would be more.
There was an argument made that the more expensive the universities get, and that seems to be the case, basically the less they are worth per minute that you spend there, because you get basically less out of every minute, or out of every dollar that you invest basically in university. And also now, especially the most ridiculous thing that I read recently was that now everything is, or a lot of universities are switching to online classes, and the cost isn't dropping. They should actually become free or something, or almost free, like much more accessible. So the fact that they are not making that switch tells me, something is, as many people say, wrong with the system.
Yeah, it's rotten. But I think that's...
Yeah.
Sorry, just to jump in there, Sal, because I think the universities are making big dollar, or they have been in the last 20 years or so. They've really started to tap into the Asian market, particularly. I'm talking about UK universities again. Like where I'm doing my masters at Nottingham, they've got a subsidiary, they've got a centre, a University of Nottingham Centre in Malaysia, for example, or Singapore, I can't remember. But a lot of the UK universities are tapping into this Asian market. And of course, people will pay the fees because they get the experience of living in the UK, right? The cultural experience, the linguistic experience. Like you say, now they're offering the same price, but now you're going to stay at home, wherever that is in the world. And it's not the same because the universities are realizing now with a bump that people have been paying for the experience, not really for the education. And people aren't willing to pay that much money for the, for the education that's on offer.
How do you think that will change? How do you think that will change in the future? I mean, what we're presuming is that the world will be back to normal one day, and people will be able to go through the experience if that's what they desire. But are you saying that maybe people will realise that that's what they were paying for and not go so much? Because, like you say, if you're a Asian thinking of coming here, that is an experience, isn't it? Well, yeah. If you're changing culture completely and still, learning a specific subject, that is an experience more so than what I'm talking about. People we went to school with who maybe went and did, travel and tourism at uni and now are in a load of debt when they could have just sort of gone and worked in the industry. Yeah,
that's it. I think the problem there then for the UK-based citizen who wants to go to a UK university, so there's none of the exciting sort of foreign experience involved in it, except if you go up to, Manchester and above. It's another world, isn't it? But the problem for a lot of young people in the UK is that there's this qualification inflation, right? So to even get an interview, you used to just need a degree. Now to get in through the door, there's an inflation. Now you need an MA. Soon you'll need a PhD, because there's this this generation where it's sort of accepted that even if you want to do a job that doesn't necessarily require 3 or 4 years of study, it's more practical in its skills, that you need this level. And then because everybody has it, there's an inflation. Now you need to go the next level up, which is a master's, and then it keeps going up like that.
So you say that you need a specific degree to actually get certain jobs. So actually it's unfortunate, but better to go to university to get those degrees to get certain jobs.
Yes, but that's to do with, I think that's also a problem that could be relooked at in the next few years. Revised is the word. How do we measure intelligence, or how do we measure usefulness in an organization? Because a university degree is quite an easy way to say, okay, this person studied for an extended period of time. That sort of gets your foot in the door at least, and then you can go from there with the rest of the CV. But I'm wondering, will we have a new measure of intelligence, which is a lot more de-institutionalized? Because I don't think that shows too much about a person.
No, obviously having a degree doesn't in the end mean much. I mean, we saw in the United States, some people even bought degrees for their children, and now they go to jail, but it's a whole different story. Now, the thing is, when you're younger and you go to your first job, I suppose, even though there are many problems, I suppose, with just getting a degree, a certificate at the end of a certain amount of time, it shows though that you stuck to it and that you finished something. So whether that is university or in the future some other kind of job training or whatever, I think it's most important in the beginning, because then once you have 7, 10, 15 years of job experience, usually your CV, the focus switches from what did you study back then to what did you work in recently. And I think that's more close to what you said. What I found useful at university, and I think the biggest problem that we can identify for today, last time we talked a bit about the political influences, let's say. This time we seem to have the biggest problem with the cost associated with university, because if the cost would be much more accessible, like in Italy, for example, I think you can study for 3,000-4,000 a year, more or less.
I think.
That's more reasonable, I think, but even lower. It also is connected to your income. If you make less, or your family has less wealth, you pay less, so it's a bit more fair. But let's say that the cost would be lower. So do you think that university by itself, with the things they teach, is obsolete still because you can get a lot of information elsewhere, or do you think it's valid? For me, for example, it was valid also for the connections I made there, the network, because in Germany, where I studied, there's a big connection and a big network between the institutions and also the market, the companies, the free market. And so you get to know a lot of people, and you create a network of people. So would you say that if you would take away this problem of exaggerated costs, would you think that and the political thing that we talked about last time?
But so now you're taking away too many things, because
two big ones.
But say, they're two quite big ones. There's the two biggest problems that I have with the university. You take those
what
away,
remains
you
is
don't
the
have the
content.
university.
But what remains is basically what the university was made for, which is to teach you something and to give you high quality content.
Yeah, but then we're gonna get dragged back into last week's. What do we need to learn at university? How to think, how to reason, and how to listen to other people who don't agree with us. And then we go back into the cancel culture, the safe space, etc., etc. Okay, so if we created an alternative universe where university was actually for critical thinking and a free exchange of ideas, and it costs less. Well, I mean, it's a big hypothetical. I suppose so, yeah. But again, I'm uneasy about it being used as a measure of base intelligence, because I think there are many, many ways to show your value intellectually, and you don't have to be. You don't need that certificate. Unfortunately, a lot of jobs require that certificate, because how else are they going to measure you in a pile of CVs?
What's the alternative?
And you can answer that. You usually answer your own questions.
Me? No.
No, I don't know, mate. I'm just here to complain.
What's the alternative? What do you mean for an employer to base?
To university, because a lot of people talk then about let's abolish universities, or they're gonna they are destroying.
That's like defund themselves. The police. It's like, well, that's obviously not the solution, is it?
Because if you think about it, it's an organized institution. Recognized by scientists, that has a standardized way to teach things and standard content that already has been proven to be just talking about the content right now scientifically. If they teach you how to open up a person as a doctor because you have to make an incision, it's being taught there. There are standardized ways it's being taught, and you learn that at university. So what's the alternative if you would take away the university to have a centralized place that's been around for centuries where you can learn these things? That's what I'm wondering. What's the alternative to, or should we just...
There are some extreme jobs, like the doctor and the surgeon, I think is an extreme. Jobs like a lawyer, you need that certification. But a lot of the courses that are on offer now, it's knowledge that it's not going to kill anybody if you didn't get it with a certificate from the University of back end of nowhere. I mean, it needs serious reform from top to bottom, like I complained about last week. More briefly, so leaving the political hijacking to one side, things like the reason that a lot of the lecturers are there is to research, right, and to get published. And then a lot of them have the teaching jobs because that's sort of the deal with the university. So the teaching is not their priority. Okay. So if you have people that are going there to learn and you have people responsible for teaching them who don't have teaching as their main priority, that's already a huge problem in terms of the motivation levels.
So you should make a distinction or separate the research departments from the classroom, basically. I mean, could be one.
That's as a very broad brushstroke. That would be an idea. The cost needs to come down. I think what's it like in Germany, Sal? Because I tell you what, in the UK, universities are like drinking clubs, right? There's a lot of partying also there, obviously.
I guess it depends really, but I'm sure it's the same in Britain. I mean, if you live close to your university, the experience will be vastly different than when you have to travel there and start a whole new life, which was my experience. Like I moved far away from home to be independent, but not too far to, for emergencies back then, to have some kind of vicinity. But I was like 400 kilometers, I think, away from where I grew up. And I had to find my own job to sustain myself because there was not much support in my family, which made it clear that it's my choice, my responsibility, which I'm grateful for, though, because, I had to earn my degree. So I went partying sometimes, of course, but I could not just be drinking every single day because I would have to be fit for work to make money and then also have the energy to study and actually also go to the lessons in the morning. So, in the end, if you have to earn it, if you have to survive, the partying will be less. I can imagine, though, if you have a lot of money and Mama and Papa paid everything, and you have nothing to worry about, that it's going to be a hell of a party time.
Well,
and I don't want to judge people also partying. I mean, it doesn't.
No, they can do what they want. But I think if you're gonna spend all that money on the education, then I don't know. For me, it makes more sense to prioritize why you're going there. I think you can get drunk at home with your friends from home, can't you? I don't know. Dan, do you feel like there were any conditions that would have changed to make you want to go to university more?
Yeah, if I'd excelled in a field that, if I did all right in GCSEs and stuff, I probably would have gone to Collier's had I known I'd do all right in my GCSEs, which would be into further education. How would you distinguish that from further education?
Non-obligatory education, isn't it? So from 16 onwards in the UK.
I mean, as opposed to going to trade school or whatever.
Right.
Going to Collier's, which was what
So Collier's was the sixth form college, like the academic college.
Yeah, that's the word I'm thinking of. Had I sort of excelled in one of those subjects, maybe had I just done a little bit better, I might have. If there was something clear to me that a path that I wanted to go down, then I would have gone to university to do it. But it just seemed unclear. And just to give myself credit, I think I did kind of think exactly what you're saying, James. If you want experience, don't go and pay for to go to university. Get yourself in 30 grand's worth of debt or whatever. Just have experience off your own back, and then and I've kind of always thought if I do decide I want to go into educate, like go back to, if I have a more clear idea of what I'd like to study, then I can do it at a later date, And I don't really. I think that is a good decision that I made, but I just wonder whether it was why it was oversold, and whether. Maybe because it was oversold, the universities did less because people were just coming to them. They didn't have to do a lot to get people to come to them. And if anything, they kind of made all these courses so that people were able to go there, wanted to go there. So like you say, if you were thinking, I need a qualification to get into that interview, and then maybe the university thought, well, maybe we could make this a subject and that a subject so that you do have a degree that you can use to get your foot through the door. But then when, that kind of train of thought, 10, 15 years later, was evidently not a good way of doing things to employers. When it came to the real world, a lot of people were coming with degrees but didn't really know anything because the university had almost given them a degree, so they get paid. Was that the problem was that the kind of glitch in the system?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
Like Kanye West said, some people graduate, but they're still stupid.
Or maybe it was too easy for people to university, Maybe they lowered the bar so that everyone could go, so that they get paid more.
Yeah, and then you devalue the qualification for everybody.
Yeah. I don't know.
Then
interested in where that problem kind of started, and also I feel like it's on its way out anyway. I feel like people won't get that. The things that I'm saying are views shared by a lot of people. I don't think people are telling their kids to go to university as much as they were when we were at school, 15, 20 years ago. God.
Wait, Dan, just to I think we should wrap this up because that was a beautiful point. In my right hand, I have a pen. In your right hand, a screwdriver. In your right hand, Sal, I don't want to know.
I don't show my hands. My left hand.
Good stuff, man.
All right, guys, that's a good place to finish, I think.
All right, guys.
But yeah, interesting stuff. I'm glad that we got off the political left rant. So there's a lot more. There's a lot of interesting topics.
It was good, man. It was good. It was good political left rant. But yeah, it's just good to.
Enough is enough.
Yeah. Okay, right. Are we wrapping up?
Three-Headed Hydra.
Yeah.
Subscribe, guys.
Why are we making these podcasts? Because 3 heads are better than 1. We'll combine our experiences and research on engaging topics to learn a bit more each time, enjoy the chat, and improve our own communication skills in the process. Innovation comes from the ability to correlate information between different realms of knowledge, and we all have very different realms of knowledge between the 3 of us.
Why the Hydra, you ask? In archetypal mythology, dragons guard piles of gold. Overcoming fears can bring great rewards. What you most need is often where you least want to look, and we won't shy away from the fire to challenge each other and reach that goal.
What's in it for you, listener? Learn, laugh and love. Get involved and join us on this adventure.